everybody. I'm Emily Phillips here with Just Lean In and Step to Stories. And it is my honor and pleasure to be able to do this interview that we're going to be honoring this incredible couple for Memorial Day weekend. And we are so happy and blessed to be here. I am with Walt Hunter and his wife, Irene. Walt is 101 years old. Yes, and Irene is 98. And so we have a lot to cover today. They're both amazing and great physical shape and just blowing me away as we speak. And I'm excited. We have like so many questions that you guys have written in for us to ask. So we're just going to get started. Is that okay?
Okay, sure.
Okay. Before we really get into all these questions though, I want to ask a few questions myself. So you're 101 years old. You have lived through the Great Depression. You have lived through the 50s. You have lived through the hippie generation. You have lived through the 80s, the 90s. I mean, what would you say, like, out of all the decades you've lived in, what was the most enjoyable decade?
Me first, I think every decade has been enjoyable for me. I have memories of 9, now 10 decades, starting in College View, up in Nebraska, and ending here in Texas. We've lived in numbers of states. We've moved 26 times. We've visited almost every country in the world.
Wow.
We've been in South America. We've been in Moscow. And we've traveled. We've had great experiences. We're just glad to be here.
And Irene, what would you say out of all the decades, what would be your, like, favorite one?
I think going to high school.
High school.
It was before we had school buses, so I got to be the driver of a Model A Ford, and I would pick up students along the way.
That's awesome. So you didn't walk to school?
Oh, well, to country school I did.
Yes.
But the high school was 12 miles away.
And you would have been in high school in the
1943.
30s?
30s.
When year did you graduate?
1943.
Would you guys say you're the oldest in your class? Still alive?
I think we're still alive.
Well, we're probably the only ones alive.
The other ones alive. I graduated in 1940.
1940. So, did you guys ever think you were going to get here?
You never know. Of course.
I kind of thought I'd make it, yeah.
A little louder.
I think I would make it. Sure, why not? We always lived well. We didn't have a lot of bad habits like smoking and drinking and well, I did smoke for 3 years and I thought, this is stupid.
But everybody smoked back then. That's what I'm saying. I mean, everybody smoked.
That's what my doctors told me. I was feeling so bad about it, and he says, everybody smoked.
Yeah, that was the thing to do.
That's right.
Did you ever smoke, Walt?
Only with Irene.
Only with Irene. We'll leave it at that. That's awesome. I have a lot more questions I want to ask, but since we have so many, can we just get to it?
Go ahead.
Okay. Which one of you does the dishes?
I do the dishes now. Irene did them early.
Okay.
I'm working.
Okay. What was the biggest pet peeve you had to overcome, and how did you overcome it? I don't know what they mean by that, but
Impediment?
no, like what was the biggest, like? Let's go to the next one. I'll come back to this one. Okay, hold on. How does it feel to outlive most of your close friends?
I guess it felt normal because our close friends died gradually over many years. And my own philosophy is that you only live at the instant time. You don't live in the past, you don't live in the future. So you only live this one instant. And so I lived with awesome people every instant of my life, including the Marine Corps, including my school, including college, including my teaching. I'm just thankful for every second.
Can you tell me a little bit about your time in the Marine Corps? And I know that you were also in
grade school.
Irene's a cadet
military.
Cadet nurse.
Cadet nurse. You were a nurse.
I was a cadet nurse.
And you were,
I enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1942. I trained in San Diego. I was sent to Guadalcanal early. That was the first Marine campaign, ground campaign, in 1942. I left Guadalcanal in 1943, went to Bougainville in 1943, and to Green Island, made a landing at Green Island with New Zealand troops in 1944. I came back to the States, did some more training, went back to Hawaii. I was in Hawaii when atom bomb was dropped, so I came back to the States with discharge. I stayed in reserve and served during the Korean conflict. I taught electronics during the Korean conflict. So I spent 10 years, 5 years in reserve, and 5 years active duty in the Marine Corps. And once a Marine, always a Marine. You know, it's a grand experience, but it's a continuation of a lot of other experiences too. Were very important.
I want to ask you something, and obviously I don't want to get political because I know we have a lot of people that have different views here, but how does it make you guys feel when you did all of this for your country? And we have a lot of unfortunate things happening in our country, a lot of divide, a lot of division, people maybe not respecting, the anthem, the flag, things like that. How does that affect you, somebody that's lived this long and has loved your country?
Angry.
Yeah.
Angry? I think I'm less angry, but I'm dismayed by the amount of separation. We don't talk to one another. Americans are good people, and I've never found, even though we may differ politically or some other way, that if you talk to people, you find common ways.
A lot of them, I think, are more in the middle than you actually think.
I'm liberal socially,
mm-hmm.
and I'm conservative
financially. So you're more of like a libertarian.
I would call myself a libertarian.
Libertarian.
I am.
You sound like you're a little bit more angry.
Yes, I did. When I started nursing, I was in nurses training. The government came in and said, "We need you now," and so they wanted us to join the Cadet Nurse Corps, which I did, and with the stipulation that after I graduated, I would be in the Army. Well, the war was over. After the atom bomb, things changed a lot. And so they wanted us to muster out, which we did. And I guess I just felt like I wanted to go overseas. I wanted to see the world. That's just the spirit I have always had.
It sounds like you guys have been to a lot of places.
We have been.
You've been in a lot of places.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Where's your favorite place you've been?
I think New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Oh, I love New Zealand.
When you guys travel, do you go on cruises or do you just fly? Or
We just did our fly drive. We just got somebody to give us
Go to
tickets
the
and away
airport
we
and took
go.
off from there.
wow.
It was
We've
more
driven-
fun that way. This
We've
way
driven every road in New Zealand, almost every road in Tasmania. We've traveled in South America on the Amazon River. We've been to Moscow, been to St. Petersburg. We spent some time in the Kremlin, and we've just been there. We've been in Norway and watched in the fjords, and
You've been everywhere.
well, we've been lots of places.
All right, so let me ask you this question. What is the most impactful, positive or negative event in the U.S. history that you've lived through, and why was that, and how did that impact you personally?
World War II.
Yeah, so what was the most impactful event, negative or positive, in the U.S. in your life that impacted you? Whether it was 9/11, whether it was the Great Depression, whether it was the pandemic, what was
I think it was Pearl Harbor Day.
Pearl Harbor? Can you talk a little bit about
7th
that?
day of December, 1942. I in 1941. It changed the lives of almost every American. Every American in high school, almost every American boy or girl, they're less than 30 years old, because they all went to the military. And so in 1942, I enlisted in the Marine Corps. And I met guys from Texas and every state in the Union. They were all 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. We were all boys. Most of us had never shaved, but we learned to be Marines. And you develop an esprit de corps. You develop love for your country and respect for other people, because you knew people from all walks of life. And then when you go into combat with them, you know them even better, because you spend time in foxholes and training and all the agony of stress in the Marine. You learn to trust other people, and you never ask questions about what is your religion. All you knew is you're some boy from Bronx, New York, or from Tallahassee, Florida, or from Dallas, Texas. That's all you know.
We didn't talk politics or religion.
No, we knew about the girlfriends.
Yeah, stuff like that.
High school.
Oh, I
football.
see.
So, but we developed an esprit de corps, and especially under combat, because people die under combat, and your very best friend may not be alive the next day.
Right.
So
Did you lose a lot of friends?
we lost. I lost 3 high school friends,
Oh,
and of course I lost many friends in the Marine Corps that I knew less about.
I forgot to ask you, how many siblings did you guys have, and are they still alive?
I have one sibling. He's still alive.
He's still alive.
Yeah,
How old
he's
is
still alive.
he?
He's only 95.
He's only 95.
He's still working.
He's still working.
He's still working.
What does he do?
Electronics.
And he still works.
Yeah. He drives 50, 60 miles a day.
You know, sometimes I wonder if that's part of longevity, is you keep working.
Yeah.
You know, because my grandfather, my mom's mom, my mom's father worked all the way till he physically couldn't anymore. Keep your wits about you too.
Why not?
What did you do before you retired?
Professor
Professor in chemistry?
in chemistry.
And you were a nurse.
I taught chemistry. I did chemistry research, and I ended up advising doctoral students. I had 65 doctoral students.
65 doctoral
65
studies
at the University of Missouri,
at the University of Missouri.
and they're all doing well.
And how many years did you do that?
I began as a high school teacher in Nebraska, and I worked a total of 50 years in education, and then I took a directorship for 2 other colleges after that.
Wow. And then when did you finally retire?
I fought my last touch 90 years old.
Now, what about you? Do you have any siblings?
Yes, I do. I have 3 sisters and 2 brothers.
Are they still alive?
3 of us are.
So the 3 of you are still alive.
Yes.
I have lost a sibling myself. I know that that's difficult. I'm sure that was
It's
difficult.
hard.
I think that is I think it's an underrated loss. I think people don't realize how much a sibling loss can affect you.
It's very traumatic.
Extremely. Did all of your parents live a long time?
My mother lived to 75, and my dad lived to 72. But they worked hard. Mother was a school teacher, and we were all going to go to college. That's all I ever heard. And we all did except the boys, and they took over the farms. But it was just an unwritten law. Our family
To work.
and to work hard.
You know, I feel like this is a common theme with people in your generation. You guys aren't baby boomer. What's your generation? You're not baby boomer. You are
Before that,
before that. I don't know what they call that. I don't even know if they start call that.
well, depression kids, I guess.
Yeah, depression kid. But what I find is hard work is a big one.
Yeah.
It was a big value at today's age. Not as much. You don't. I think a lot of people today feel entitled, and
But you learn
kids today too. They don't have no idea.
You learn to be independent.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And growing up in College View, in the 30s, they had so-called depression, and we didn't have any laws.
Were you guys on the in the bad part of it, or did you survive? I mean, clearly you survived it, but
I was born in 1922. Depression hit in 1929, in 1930, 1932. Unfortunately, my mother died of childbirth in 1931.
she died having a child.
She died
But that was common. I'm so sorry. How old were you when that happened?
9 years old.
Do you remember her very well?
Oh yeah. She was a swimmer, a dancer, head of the PTA, in a small school, and I remember very well. My brother was 3 years old at that time, and my grandmother, who at that time was 72 years old, she came to live with us. And so I lived with my grandmother. My father left, and so I lived with my grandmother until I was in the Marine Corps.
So they raised you.
But my
Your father
grandmother-
left
My father unfortunately left.
after your mother died.
Yeah. My father was a graduate of the University of Nebraska in Dairyman and the manager of an ice cream company. I lived with my grandmother. My grandmother's pension was $32 a month.
$33 a month.
So I had no allowance. But I lived in College View. And College View was a great community. Everybody knew everybody. And I could be in the alleys or walking around. I could never get in trouble because they all knew me. They could call my grandmother. And I learned to work very quickly. I learned that if I wanted money, I could pull weeds. I could do almost anything. And I always had money. In fact, I had enough money that when I was 16 years old, I bought a car.
What kind of car was it?
A Model T Ford. I'd never driven a car in my life. I bought the car for $20. Model T
You bought the
Ford,
car for $20.
$20. Four-cylinder Model T Ford. I asked the dealer to move it to the street, which he did, and tell me what to do. And I drove the car down Calvert Street to 40th Street, turned south on 40th Street, drove on a gravel road, learned to drive. Came back, I could drive.
That's awesome. What was your first car?
When I went to high school, I drove everybody.
Do you guys think we could would that be okay? Would that be good?
I drove everybody to high school. I was the bus driver. We didn't have buses then.
He drove a Model A Ford. That's the next one, 1932. My car was 1926.
So I have a question. Now that we have the internet and all of this, do you think life was better before technology or after?
Same.
So not too much is really
Human beings adapt to the environment they're in. You know, in the islands we had nothing, but we adapted to the environment. And we lived okay. We were happy enough. In the 20s, the 30s, we had few communications, radios and so forth. We adapted to it. Humans just do that. That's part of our DNA.
Okay, I have a couple of events I want to ask you guys about. What was it like when you heard about the Titanic?
We visited the Titanic in Newfoundland. I remember the Lindbergh baby.
Oh, you had saw the ship before? You had seen? Oh no, you visited
museum.
The museum, yeah.
Titanic Museum. I think my real awakening to the real world was Lindbergh baby when the baby was murdered.
Oh.
And that's the first extra paper I'd ever heard about in my life. Somebody came down my street yelling, extra, extra, Lindbergh baby was killed and was found. Anyhow, that was the first kind of realization there's a world outside of there. That was in 1927.
Where were you when Kennedy died?
I was in Irving, at Earlham College in Richmond, Indiana.
Did you hear it on the radio?
I heard on the radio. I was in chem lab, and I was a writer at that time.
Where were you?
I was at home,
She back,
and my friend called me. She says, "Did you hear?"
she was in Indiana.
So she told me. What a shock.
Interesting story. My dad grew up in Virginia and he was working for a newspaper at the time. They got the first paper off the press where they saw Jack Ruby killing Oswald in the...
I remember that.
In the hallway, I went shot.
Yes, my dad, the first picture, because he worked at the DC paper. Okay, you may not know this one. I just want to ask you a few ones. Do you remember when Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper all died on the plane?
I do. No. I've never followed Hollywood.
So you don't know about much like that about that. Okay, I was just wondering. Okay, do you remember?
I'm asking about science, I know that.
Okay, all right. What? Well then, oh gosh, that's not my subject. Oh, my husband would be like being asked. So, but what kind of music did you guys listen to?
Radio? Mostly podcast.
But like growing up, like were you guys into
Growing up.
country or were you into pop? Were you into jazz?
Oh no. I built my first radio in 1929.
You built a radio.
I built it. A crystal set.
Oh.
I could listen to radio stations, local radio stations in 1927.
Do you remember when a man went to the moon?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, oh yes.
Was that a big deal?
Oh, that was a big deal.
We know I knew it was going to happen.
Because you knew.
You know, having studied science, I have a different insight into a lot of things that most folks don't really think about.
All right, I'm going to ask you some more questions. Hold on. And if you think it's something interesting, all right. Hold on. Okay. What are the 3 things you guys do to keep healthy?
Keep healthy?
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
What are the 3 things we do to keep healthy?
Oh.
What do you do to keep healthy?
Well, to begin with, I ate right. I tried to.
Like whole foods.
Oh, yes. Very careful.
I think foods today aren't as good as they used to be. There are a lot of chemicals in them.
Oh,
Yeah, they are chemical, but they taste better.
That's true. What else? You guys get a lot of activity in? Would you say you...
Yeah, we keep pretty active. We get up early in the morning.
What time do y'all get up?
I get up at 5 o'clock.
Every morning. And what do? You drink some coffee?
Drink coffee, sit in the patio, do math in my head.
You do math in your head?
I normally do. And mostly low stress. I have very little stress. I don't worry about things. I just know it doesn't do any good to worry, so I don't worry.
Right?
And so
What about you?
Irene's higher stress than I am.
You more stress.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm more stressed.
She does it for me.
So you do the stress for him.
I'm what?
You do the stress for me.
I take care of his stress.
Yes.
I really like to do my own cooking. Food tastes better. You just, and especially Walt says that. He says, our children worry about us getting enough food. I said, don't worry about that.
I think she misses
You still
cooking.
cook?
She misses cooking.
Oh, I do.
You cook every day?
Oh, pretty much. He gets breakfast.
I mean, you guys are both getting around amazingly well. I mean, I'm sure that you guys realize this, but most people, once they hit about 80, things aren't so good. You guys are acting as if you're in your 70s. You're very, I mean, even though you have like that walker, like you're like cruising around.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, we still drive.
You still drive?
Yeah.
He does. He won't let me drive, but I want to.
Yeah, she can't load the walker.
Oh, because of the walker. Do you guys have like a handicap sticker?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. What did you do for each other that was the most important thing? I don't really know.
The most important thing we do for
For one another.
Each other.
Huh? Yeah, for each other. What do you do for each other?
He works outdoors. I used to be into the plants a lot, but I can't do it now.
So he kind of does the gardening for you.
So he does most of that.
I do most
And
of
you
it.
probably do the cooking.
Karen,
Yes. Oh, yes.
Irene originates cooking. I don't clean up afterwards.